So clearly there are some huge shakeups going on at DC right now that we have James Gunn and Peter Safran, and they've taken over DC Studios. They're now the co-CEOs of this company, or at least studio, and they're forming the DCEU, DC Cinematic Universe. And like I said, there's some big stuff going down, a whole bunch of announcements on Twitter last night, and we've got to talk about it. Now, before I get into that, I do want to warn you, you may be hearing some background noise, so sorry about that, but I am recording this in my school parking lot because, you know, this is what I have to work with right now. But let's get into this. So this all started last night when the Hollywood Reporter broke the news that supposedly Wonder Woman 3 is dead at Warner Brothers in DC. So Wonder Woman 3, it's not happening. Supposedly Patty Jenkins, she just turned in her script for Wonder Woman 3. James Gunn and Peter Safran, they looked at it, they didn't like it. And so then they said, you know what, we're not going to move forward with that project. And this then sprung forward to a bunch of other announcements, which just sent Twitter ablaze. Because then this led to, not only is possibly Gal Gadot done as Wonder Woman, but now is Henry Cavill not back as Superman after just getting him back. These are other reports that are being said here as well, because, you know, Superman, we just got his big return in Black Adam in the post-credit scene. We were promised Man of Steel 2. And, you know, according to these reports from the Hollywood Reporter, DC and Warner Brothers were actively looking for a director. They were looking at scripts for a Man of Steel 2, looking for a great next Superman movie. But now it's possibly not happening. And now on top of that, supposedly Henry Cavill did shoot a cameo for the Flash movie. You know, obviously there's going to be a lot of cameos in that film. But now Warner Bros. Discovery is debating about cutting that cameo out because it may possibly give a sense of false hope for a future with this character, with this version of the character that they don't intend to follow up with. Which, but then things go even further, because speaking of cameos, there was supposed to be a Batman cameo in Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. Originally, it was going to be Michael Keaton's Batman. Then we heard a little while ago that it was reshot to be Ben Affleck's Batman, or at least Bruce Wayne. And now that has supposedly been cut out of the film as well. They had a recent test screening for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, and Ben Affleck, Michael Keaton, no Batman was in this film. No post-credit scene or anything. And then this is probably the craziest part to me, which really is kind of like the nail in the coffin, is that then the Hollywood Reporter is also reporting that Jason Momoa is done as Aquaman. After Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, that is going to be his last appearance as Arthur Curry, aka Aquaman, in the DCU. Which, Jason Momoa as Aquaman has been the highlight of the DCU, in my opinion. I love that first movie. It's just great casting, because not only is it a great adaptation of Aquaman, but this version of Aquaman is better than Aquaman in the comics. It actually makes him cool instead of just a blonde guy that talks to dolphins and fish. So the reason they're doing this, you can see where things are going with a possible reboot, and we'll talk about that more in a second. But Aquaman may be gone, but Jason Momoa is still sticking around and working in the DCU with James Gunn and Peter Safran, but not as Aquaman, as Lobo. This is something we talked about a couple weeks ago when Jason Momoa was kind of teasing, and also James Gunn teased that something Lobo was in development. Jason Momoa kind of talked about that a bit there, and you know, speculation started to rise that he was going to be playing Lobo. Now, my assumption was, like, okay, he's going to play Aquaman and Lobo, because technically he could do that. I mean, the characters look different enough, and one is in space, one is underwater. There wouldn't be much crossover there. So, that totally could have worked, but what if the DC universe is getting rebooted, Jason Momoa is no more as Aquaman, we're getting a new person, a new actor as Aquaman, and Jason Momoa will play Lobo as he has always dreamed of. His favorite comic book character is Lobo, so it makes complete and total sense. And then you got the whole Black Adam situation, which is even more confusing, because literally just yesterday, Dwayne Johnson was talking about Black Adam, and we got reports from Deadline that supposedly Black Adam 2 is in development, a Hawkman spinoff is also happening, and now you have the Hollywood Reporter, also another big trade. These are supposed to be two of the most trustworthy sources out there in Hollywood. They have conflicting reports, and the Hollywood Reporter is saying that Black Adam 2 is not happening, and Dwayne Johnson is likely done as the character of Black Adam. So I don't even know what, yeah, it's, there's so many conflicting reports, so it's like, who do you believe? Then you have some scoopers out here saying that, you know, none of this is true, it's just Wonder Woman that's being canceled. But if we are getting a DCEU reboot, and the DCEU is no more, and we're getting recasts of all these characters, since James Gunn is in charge, what does this mean for Peacemaker and the Suicide Squad characters? Because that's literally his show, those are his characters. You really think if he's in control, he's going to reboot those characters? But then if you don't reboot those characters, but then you do reboot Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, Aquaman, all those characters, how does that make sense? Because we've been saying for a while now, like, okay, maybe don't fully reboot, but just do a little pick and choose. You know, maybe reboot Batman because it doesn't look like we can get Ben Affleck back. Keep Henry Cavill Superman, Gal Gadot Wonder Woman, Jason Momoa Aquaman, but then get a replacement for Ezra Miller, a replacement for Cyborg probably. Get some Green Lantern up in there. But yeah, this is just a really interesting thing to factor into this, and kind of makes me believe like this isn't happening. It is not going to be a full reboot because James Gunn would not reboot Peacemaker, and especially because there's not even any way they can change this to be like, oh, it's part of the new DCEU or the new DCU, because literally you had Ezra Miller's Flash and Jason Momoa's Aquaman in this show. And then another thing is that we know that Warner Bros. Discovery, David Zaslav, and James Gunn and Peter Safran, they're having their big meeting next week, I believe next Wednesday, to talk about their plans for the future of the DCU. And if they're going to do this, if they're going to do a hard reboot, completely new DC cinematic universe, why would you be announcing this now when you have Shazam, The Flash, and Aquaman coming out next year? Because then it literally makes those movies pointless if they're not going to go anywhere, if that's going to be the last appearances of those characters. And like I said, some of these castings are perfect. Zachary Levi as Shazam, Jason Momoa as Aquaman. To give up on those is just really sad and kind of disappointing. But then, above everything, if they're going to reboot, as long as they do not touch Blue Beetle, because I have so much hype for this, Sholomar Dueña as Jaime Reyes, aka Blue Beetle. I'm so excited for this, and they better not touch this. He better still be safe. I mean, we just got a poster for it a couple days ago. James Gunn has been saying he's pretty excited about it, so we'll see. But the one good thing that I can really think of, like, at least the best part of this would be, it would solve our Batman problem, or should I say Batmen. Because Batfleck, you know, Ben Affleck, he was supposed to be the DCEU Batman, but then he left, and now we have Robert Pattinson's Batman, but then also Michael Keaton's Batman is coming in here as well. So it's kind of like, if you reboot, is it going to be a brand new Batman, a recast Batman, or, as a lot of people have been theorizing, maybe they may just reboot the universe and have it take place in the Reevesverse, and possibly Robert Pattinson would be the Batman of the DCU. You know, we've been hearing for a while now that Matt Reeves doesn't want to do that. They don't want to have this connected. They want to leave this as its own standalone universe, and that is honestly what I would prefer. But then again, if you do that, and you have a different Batman in the DCU, you're going to have two Batmen running around, and things are going to get confusing. But things are already confusing, and again, this is all just posts that are being done in the news and on Twitter and on social media, so a lot of it is not like officially confirmed. A lot of it is just speculation and kind of rumors for now. But hopefully next week when we get that official meeting, we will get some updates on this. James Gunn is very active on Twitter and social media, so I wouldn't be surprised if he at least comments on this within the next 24 hours, so we'll have to wait and see on that. But definitely the future of the DCU is, I mean, as Dwayne Johnson said, the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change, and boy, it has. So anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these big changes, possibly a full hard reboot to the DCEU, aka the DCU? So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video, and hit the subscribe button so I can keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.